Hey everyone, welcome to my second vlog. My name's James Lee, and this vlog will be on speed and agility. Here's a brief overview of the athletes and drills that were used. We used 3 athletes. The speed drill that was used was the staggered stance acceleration, and the agility drill that was used was just a 180 turn. So here's some background information on my first athlete. He's an academy footballer with a top speed of 9.4 meters per second, which is average within the squad. He can squat double his body weight, which is above average, and a jump score of 56.6, which again is roughly average in the squad. My first impressions when reviewing this acceleration drill is that the athlete comes up very quickly. There is a slight upper body rotation in the early parts of the push-off, which is making him less efficient. When slowing the first few steps down, we can see there may be both skill and capacity issues, but for the sake of this assignment, I've chosen to prioritise the skill issues. When referring back to parts of the technical model of acceleration, we can see there is no exaggerated intent from the arms. The head position isn't too bad, but the spine and chest could be up and straighter rather than the slight curve we can see, which will make the chain of commands less efficient when pushing into the floor. There is no explosive triple extension shown either. With the leading leg, the aim is to produce horizontal and vertical force production through the floor. At this angle, it's not really giving him the capabilities to produce that, as they're not parallel to each other. The second step shows many similarities: no triple extension, the arms aren't efficient, causing the torso to rotate, and even less of a relationship between the shin angles, producing less force. The byproduct of this causes his technique to become somewhat scrappy, not reaching parallel at the hip and plantar flexed at the ankle. The aim arch is a skill-based drill, but also proof that capacity isn't an issue, as we can see athlete 1 achieving the desired 90-degree hip angle, but fails to plantar flex at the ankle on the left side and struggles to hold the correct technique throughout. My strategy to improve this was to reinforce the technical points under different conditions. In this case, banded marches, building into skips, concentrating on the arm intent, core control, and piston leg drives with a dorsiflexed ankle. Extra exercises were administered, which included psoas marches. These were to improve hip flexor strength and lower back control, as well as some overhead variations to control the core and upper extremities when accelerating. Once satisfied, we progressed onto some different skipping variations, which the athlete showed greater control through the midsection with a straighter spine. The green band encouraged a forward lean, which enhanced the force production into the floor. The graphic here shows the improvements that were made at the hip and ankle joints through the exercises and the technical cues that were given. Athlete 2 was also an academy footballer with a top speed of 9.36. He could squat 1.7 of his body weight for 3 reps and a jump score of 52.4. The athlete has recently recovered from meniscus inflammation, which he didn't require an operation for. Here we can see athlete 2 showing some good aspects of the technical model. He shows a forward lean from 40 to 45 degrees, relaxed arm motion and core control, piston leg drives, and dorsiflexed at the ankle. From my visual analysis, I can see a lack of intent in the drive phase of this acceleration. His jump testing data was low compared to his lower body strength testing. Acceleration is the rate of change in velocity, so vertical translation and ground reaction force through the floor are paramount in this acceleration drill. This may have something to do with his recent meniscal injury. He can reach above parallel when flexing at the hip without any detrimental effect to his core control. Here you can see him getting into some strong positions with a dorsiflexed ankle, so then I wanted to see if there's any discrepancies between the left and right side. No discrepancies were seen at the hip angle, as there was only a 4 degrees difference. When performing some overhead A skips, the athlete shows that he can produce decent force and keep in a good position. Knowing he was proficient at the skill led me to concentrate on producing force in the first 2 contacts. Kneeling start drills allows for increased rate of force development at a more horizontal angle, while encouraging the athlete to be more aggressive and dorsiflexed at the ankle joint to create stiffness to push from. Referring back to his jump score, I feel he is strong enough and technically efficient enough to produce more force through these first 2 steps, so assign him some different exercises to improve his rate of force development and ankle stiffness. As well as doing the drills on the pitch, the athlete performed plyometric exercises to encourage a short stretching response. This would cause an increase in recruitment of motor units through the eccentric action and therefore increase the rate of force he can push through the floor. This included pogos, single leg jumps and bounding. Our third athlete had a skill issue. He was 23 years old, recreational footballer with 5+ years of gym experience, with no discrepancies between his 505 for his left and right leg. Here he is performing a 180 turn. As you can see, though he decelerates, his feet aren't parallel when he reaches his moment of inertia. From this point he suffers in trying to recover. We can see from this view that his centre of mass isn't near his turning leg, but his foot placement, e.g. the skill, is something that needs to be addressed before that. As you can see from this rear view, his feet aren't parallel, so he becomes inefficient in the turn, which causes him to come wider on the return, indicating he can't control the speed he's travelling at to turn with quality. This then causes his crossover step to come extremely wide. Before breaking the skill down into parts, I wanted to test his control of his single leg, which was seen to be poor in these videos. Becoming unstable in such a simple drill like this shows why he was struggling to turn properly in the 180 turn. His braking forces weren't strong enough to control the speed he was going at. During breaking the skill down into parts, he was encouraged to brake with heel strikes and produce a strong power position, which he done. He could then build into stopping laterally with quality, developed into pushing away, accelerating his mass back the way it came. We then performed 2 drills, one which concentrated on rotational forces through the midsection with a leg drive to set him up to push away in an efficient manner, then a lateral hopping drill to replicate the absorption and concentric action in the frontal plane, which would improve the speed he could turn at without arcing out. As you can see from these freeze frames, he is already starting to bring a stronger midsection and core above his centre of mass, which will aid the speed of the turn if he can control the decel better. I observed from the drills we performed that his proprioception needs to improve, so this will be something I include in his next programme. And lastly, athlete 1 will be performing a 180 turn. He has a capacity issue and there is no discrepancies between his 505 scores for his left and right leg. Here is athlete 1 performing a 180 turn on his left and right legs. Not only missing the line on his left leg, but limited leg drive on the first step with little to no depth in the turn. His centre of mass seems too far away from the planted leg. Even when making the drill more straightforward, he extends the knee to turn almost instantly, causing there to be limited power produced. To see if my instincts were correct, I tested for capacity issues within the hip complex, which were definitely apparent. This lateral lunge test highlights the lack of depth the athlete is reaching, and I feel a hip mobility warm-up would be appropriate. To test hip control, I asked him to perform some single leg squats. As you can see, he uses compensatory movement strategies. His hips aren't straight and in control, and we can also see some slight valgus at the knee joints. The valgus is more apparent on the left side and his hips still aren't being controlled. As we know from earlier testing, his hip flexion and core control wasn't great, so that's somewhere where I'm going to concentrate on developing the mobility around that area. Mobility warm-up was put in place to increase flexibility around the hip complex, including the gluteus medius, the hip flexors and the IT band. Putting this in place not only increases flexibility, but will decrease the chance of capacity issues in the future. Furthermore, this will aid the development of hip control within the following exercises. Hip drops can increase the awareness and control of the hips, while strengthening the gluteal muscles, and practicing lateral bounds while maintaining hip control can have a huge effect when turning. Here's a summary of all the key findings. So athlete 1 was technically poor with poor hip control and core control. He will undergo some exercises to strengthen these aspects, as well as balance drills and technical speed drills, including marches and skips. Athlete 2 was technically strong but lacked the capacity to produce the force effectively. Therefore, exercises were put in place to develop the power and speed of his contractions. Athlete 3 didn't decelerate with control, so we retrained this skill into parts and then built it up again. Thank you for watching, guys.